worlds with Cause we're walking worlds and we're talking worlds with Pedro. Yeah, we're walking worlds and we're talking worlds with Pedro. Brian's here too, he's here to ask questions for you about D&D or really anything. Cause we're walking worlds and we're talking worlds with Pedro. On to the show! Let's get on to the show! Here we go! Fade in. Roadwalkers.
Hey everyone. How's it going? You got to hear our fun song. We've got Brian and Wes here with us. Hopefully that went pretty well. I don't know. Are you able to turn yourself up just a little bit, Brian? I mean, Wes?
I can move my mic closer to my mouth.
Even better.
And probably talk loud.
I'm going to pull up our YouTube video so I can look at the chat while we're hanging out.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for sending in questions ahead of time. So you can ask questions in the chat. You can ask questions of us in the past by sending us emails. It's too late now. But we have questions that we're going to answer that way. But I'm talking a lot, which is more than I usually do. I usually let Brian do all this. So I will leave it to
great,
Brian.
Though.
All right.
No, did we transfer to me?
Yeah. That was the smooth transfer.
Excellent segue.
I was on board. The best part was when I was listening to the song via the YouTube and then realized like about 7 seconds too late that I was like just jamming out when we were starting. I was like, all right.
It's go time.
What's up, everybody?
Yep. I apologize ahead of time when Wesley watches the video later and he sees the World Talkers logo sitting on his mouth.
I was trying to do like this, just like scooting up a little bit.
I tried to predict where you were, but I didn't think I could get you all together in time to set the layout. So
what I think you need to do is just shrink Brian real quick.
You can just shrink just Brian.
Just Brian.
Cool. I deserve it.
Hey, what's up? Frank, a.k.a. Larg, a.k.a. Gimmel, in the upcoming podcast we're releasing. World Walkers Cog, which is exciting.
Woo!
Yep. We'll hang out just for a second or two, see if we can get anybody else in here.
Yeah.
But, Wes, how's life?
Life is fantastic.
Nice.
Even better now that I have a summoning stone. So... take that as you will. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I guess it's fair to say if you're watching this, you don't care about spoilers.
It's too late for you.
Guys, let's just rehash everything that's ever happened.
Oh man.
So
Brian,
they
how you
started
been?
off in a bar.
A bar of dreams.
Dream bar.
That's right. Cheers. Quickly, Brummelstone was acknowledged as the norm of the group.
The softener. Brian, how you been?
I've been okay.
Josh, what up?
But good.
Yeah. Anything you guys want to plug or push real quick while we're waiting for people to fill in? Anything you've been up to lately, Wesley?
I'm working on this animation, so that's coming out soon.
Oh, is it?
We'll keep an eye out for it. I just finished up the inkings for all of that.
That's
and then
awesome.
I actually spent this last weekend recording a little song with some of my friends, and I'm going to try to make a little animation for that as well. It's about a space cat named Fred. It's very exciting. It's very hard. So, check that out. I'll probably put it on Twitter, which is twitter.com/namelesspc. I'll also probably put it up or a link to it on Instagram, namelesspc as well.
Yeah.
Don't follow his URL. It's /.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
you won't get anywhere going /.
I don't know.
Always go forward.
I don't, whatever the slash is, whichever the correct slash way it is. No one actually uses that. Go to the search menu because that's where you're going to go and type in nameless PC. And then one of my dumb little drawings will show up in the corner and you'll click that one and you'll be like, is this the right guy? And you'll read it.
Now, what if they show up and they're like, oh, what a great drawing, but he said it'd be dumb. It must be in
that's
the wrong place.
Yeah, the backup stat is to read the tweets, and there should be at least one of the last 4 should be a complaint of either about my cat or a pun. So that's usually
nice. Well,
that's future proof because it will always be one of those
future proof. All right. Well, let's jump into it. I know we had a lot of questions that came in. There's a lot to talk about. It was a 4-part episode. It's the longest side adventure we've ever had. So take it away, Brian.
All right. So I already asked this personally outside of World Talkers, but I am going to rehash it.
I think Destiny's watching too. Sorry, it's one of the patrons.
Ooh,
I'm so excited.
I love playing Destiny. Sorry.
The game, not the patron.
The game. Sorry.
If you're in the chat, say what up. You don't have to keep talking. I just want to know who's all here.
We don't have to stalk you. So I was curious though, like normally it's a little less planned out for the side quests, or at least it feels a little less. So like I was wondering, curiously, like, did you guys both decide that there was going to be this thing or this big change that Brummelstone was going to go through, or was it kind of more of an organic, like, by the way, Wes, your stone's gone, so you can't do this anymore. Your orb.
Well, I have a lot. I have a lot I could say about it, but I don't want to speak for Wes, so I'm going to let Wes start, and then I'll follow up. Combination 77, what up?
So yeah, I would say that like maybe a slight combination of the two. We had talked about kind of Brummelstone, I think, in future or in past episodes, has shown himself to be maybe the squishiest member of the group. And there's a few fights where uncontributing, I felt like maybe I wasn't contributing. And then Pedro had shown me the summoner class and it talked about, like how you worked on it. And I said, that would be cool. And I would love to do it in the podcast. And he said, well, like maybe there's a time and place for Brummelstone to become a summoner. And then the events on Rolanus happened. And I don't think I knew at that moment that like this is the action that I will take that will lead me down the summoner path. But it became like this just fit to make it happen. And I think Pedro was just like, here's the chance. And he saw it and he took it, dumped it in the episode. And so then it was like, so I knew at that moment, like, like when it happened and the orb was gone, it wasn't like I was like, oh crap, I'm screwed. It was like,
oh no.
Okay. Now the plan, at least, I think, can start going into action, hopefully, or maybe I am screwed. I think it was like, I think when we were playing, I remember Pedro sent me like a Facebook chat. I was like, it's okay. Like, don't freak out.
Do you mind if I add on? And
yeah, for sure. That's,
okay.
I mean, that's my series of events. But...
Yeah. So basically, the way I remember it now, if I'm speaking too much for you, Wes, let me know. But I believe that Wes and I are of the same mind that we don't enjoy the wizard class in 5th edition too much. We have both played previous to 5th edition, and my personal opinion, at least, is that they have taken a lot away from wizards. Wizards used to have a lot of cool stuff, and they've kind of given that out to the other classes to make them more unique. Mm-hmm. And it's just left wizard kind of underwhelming. It's very well balanced. Like, in terms of how well the game should works great, but it's not fun anymore for wizard players that I've spoken to, for instance. I've been playing a wizard since 2nd edition, and I don't enjoy it anymore. And so, like, as Wes and I were once again one night talking about commiserating over the lack of wizard inside the wizard class of 5e, the talk of playing a new class came up. So I think that was like what Wes said, was that like the idea of switching classes came up, and I was like, I always want to like make sure it fits in the story. I don't want to just go like an explosion and then suddenly I'm a new class. Like, so he was like, I want to be a new class. I'd like to explore the summoner. I was like, all right, cool. And then essentially like queued it up, like he said, so that like when I saw the right moment, like he didn't put, I don't think you put your orb in that situation in episode 68, Bards being Bards, so that you could become a summoner.
Yeah, no,
like,
I totally was just like, this seemed like, I mean, like, I think in that moment I was like, this will give me if I'm on Rolanus, which has proven like doing something kind of heroic and story driven is like the best chance to
Yeah.
like eliminate threats. Like, what is a better way than like stuffing this, or like stopping this by just directing it by unleashing the full power of the orb.
Yeah. So then after that, I had sent him the document that I've been working on for Summoner, which has been it's been played on and off over the years, but I've never really known whether it was ready for prime time. And actually, in the following couple weeks, I'm going to release the full document to patrons, so you'll be able to play the Summoner class in your games if you want to, or just look over it. And so I sent him a list. I think the way we did it is I sent him a list of the elementals he could choose from, but I don't think I told you where the elementals were from.
Yeah, I think if I remember the list, it was just like, here's all the different ones.
Here's all the different ones I've written up, and then some of them are going to play just like another one. Some of them are slightly different. Some of them are fairly different, but go through it, figure out what you want. And then once he chose what he want, I wrote the story around it. So...
Well, actually, that plays. I was going to save this question for later, but that plays really well into this question that we got from Data, which is how much did you hash out which elemental Brummelstone would get? And they added a comment. It was a great moment with or without planning.
He told me what he wanted
onto the stone, like he already knew, or
he knew what element he wanted to play. Like I would never choose somebody's mechanical stuff for them, right? But like he didn't know when it was coming. He didn't know. And with all side adventures, no one knows if they're gonna live.
Yeah,
it's why Tin won't do one. It's why Megan won't play one. She's like, I'm not going by myself.
I mean, and as we all listen to this episode, we know that there was never a chance Brummelstone was in any real peril. So, except for like every fight.
That's actually a really good segue to a question I had. Wes, what were you thinking? Grabbing two weapons that would explode in your hands if you used them.
I think you miss 90% of the shots you don't take. Honestly, I haven't listened to the episode's full disclosure, so I don't know if it came out or if you could hear it in the background, but we recorded it over 2 different nights, and each night, first night Pedro had technical issues, and the second night I had technical issues. And so there was a point where he was like, pick stuff from the book, and I could not get my internet to load. And so I'm like looking at D&D Beyond, and I'm like, okay, so I can spend 4 days just like trying to load everything. But it's like also felt like you're kind of in a time crunch here. So it was just like Brummelstone being like, that and that sounds great, let's go. It's how I felt like Brummelstone would have done in the moment. And like, I'll be honest, like I enjoy getting a magical item and figuring out how to use it in battle versus like plotting it out, because I feel like sometimes it's just, I think as a DM, I'm always just like, if I give them exactly what they want, they're just going to break my game. So I think I've just like stopped thinking that way, and I just enjoy. And to me, like when I DM, my favorite magical items are like the ones that are ridiculous, like a signpost that will change its signage just to communicate with you, or like a singing sword. So it's like, sure, it does great damage, but anytime you pull it out, it's going to start yelling and give away your cover.
It's like Roger Rabbit, that sword.
Yeah, exactly.
You pull it out, it's witchcraft. Like
I think my favorite one, this is way off topic, I gave someone a throwing axe that did like extra damage, like a +1 throwing axe, but every time you threw it, it begged not to be thrown. It hated it. And I think it came back to you like automatically via pullback, so, but it would just be like, please, please, please. It's like, it would beg you with it. And then when you threw it, it just screamed like in sheer panic.
And I don't remember how much of it made it into the actual edit, because we had a long conversation about it. Wesley fully believed at the time that resistance meant immunity.
Yes,
so he was like, well, I'll just take this, because who cares if it blows up? I won't take any damage.
Yeah, that was one of those things where it's like, I should have clarified, and if my internet had been working maybe better, it would have been one of those things where I'm like, let me double check this.
It looked for a very tense moment though, where it was like, oh man, well, the Brummelstone was fun. I wonder who's going to be a summoner.
And there is actually a long gap where I'm looking stuff up and going like, holy shit, I killed Brummelstone. Finally. No, I didn't. But now I was like, oh my god, I killed. Like this is.
Finally got one.
Whew. I was like looking over, going like, well, if he dies, he dies. Like, but I left in some of the tension.
Versus the World?
No, well, it might be, but it's from Rocky IV.
Oh, nice.
It probably ended up in Colossus. But hey, what's up, Data? It was a lot longer than it's in the podcast because it's just like, oh
no.
Because every night when I go to bed, after a game, my wife asks me like, "Did they wipe?" Every night I have to tell her like, I can't tell you guys because we're not that far ahead, but
only like 3 times by now. Oh gosh.
Oh gosh. The Tom Holland of podcast.
Josh says the most chilling words. What is your max HP?
Yeah. That's kind of funny because I thought about like I know in Critical Role it's always like how do you want to do this, but I think our catchphrase is almost what's your max HP? Or, what are you at HP wise? Like, yeah.
I know I heard that several times playing for the very short amount of time that I played in COG.
Yeah.
Oh man. But so then you wound up getting a second chance at all magical items and then had to put almost all of them down almost immediately. I was like, so we had this like moment where you're like, you got a +3 friggin' hammer.
Yeah, Mjolnir.
And no, it's gone. It's gone now. It's not coming back.
I think like, that was such a elongated sequence of picking stuff. Is that where I voiced over? And I don't think I've only done voiceover twice. Once when Roberto and Brummelstone were supposed to meet up, but like Wesley wasn't playing at the time, so I just pretended. And then that time when I was like, it was like 45 minutes or an hour worth of content I think I had to cut because it was just like, okay, well, and like.
There's so many magical items.
Yeah, I remember looking at it and being like, my first thought is always like, shopping is the worst part of D&D. When someone else is shopping, like you're just like,
oh yeah, for sure.
So like part of it, I think.
That's true.
I think maybe that time my internet was working right, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this is. But I can't. All right, well this, and I think eventually Pedro was like, you should take this one. It's like, cool, thanks.
I don't know if I did that actually. Maybe Claiborne jumped in or something, but I don't think I came in. I think I was telling you categories, though. I was helping you with categories. Like, well, here's the categories of this. Data says that you never called the hammer back, which is funny.
Yeah. I'm going to actually do it in a future.
You did ask about it, I thought.
I don't remember. He might have, yeah. But yeah. So, yeah, and that was, I don't think people realize how scary and intense the game can be for me, too, because I didn't anticipate that. I thought Brummelstone and Claiborne, they're about to wipe the temple of Elthenius out. This temple's been in my game for a long time now. They're going to clean house. Holy. Oh. All of them? You can put all the weapons down? Fudge. I didn't plan on this. Holy shit.
You should know that, like, I think what's different from me than the other World Walkers is that I've played enough D&D that if I lose a character because I did something stupid but seemed like incredibly right in the moment,
you can live with that.
I can live with that. I can go to sleep that night. I think everyone else is terrified of losing. You know, like if you play D&D, like losing your first character is like a terrifying moment. And the last thing you do is you want them to go out in a stupid way. And I think it was Brummelstone in that moment was just like, it's like, you know, he saw the odds were against him, and it's like, how do I get a step closer to where I'm going? Like this is, you know, like, and you know, Brummelstone knows fighting is not his thing. So like, especially without magic, you know, his orb, you know, like, you know, like, I'm a little out of my depth here. So
it's true. So
he trusted, you know, and I think that comes a lot from being able to trust that Pedro wouldn't be like, haha, the second you put it down, like, you know, like everyone just rips into you and tears you apart. I mean, there is that fear still, but I feel like
no, it's totally. If they wanted you to, like, the Yuan-Tai are very intrigued by anyone coming to their temple. So, like, if it was a different creature, they would have eviscerated you. Like,
yeah, and I I remember feeling in that moment like, okay, this is probably pretty dumb, but I feel like I've gotten enough cues from Pedro and knowing Pedro as a DM that he's not gonna just eviscerate me for no reason, like, or for like. Well, I mean, I guess it's like the conversation is like, if I was surrounded by goblins, you're like, give up, so we won't tear you asunder. I mean, we probably will, like in a different group, or I felt in that moment, I was like, all right, this is maybe dumb, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Data's asking if questions are only limited to World Talkers. Yeah. Yep. Thank you. That's what I was gonna say. But yeah, that was tense for me too.
Yeah. So someone sent a question for Pedro. It's not a question actually. It's a statement. Please kill off the Yuan-Tai so the Tuesday game doesn't have to flex with them.
Man, yeah. My Tuesday game plays in COG right now, and yeah, that's a legit request. I've had several groups go to the temple or go inside the temple. I had a group that actually I think tried to team up with Elthenius once, and that didn't go well. I don't remember exactly, but
I mean, he seems like a solid dude.
He seems real fun.
yeah.
Everything at that temple reeks of enjoyment and lightheartedness.
Mm-hmm. It's more of a Ren fair than an actual.
Yeah, it's really just like a light cotton candy land. Chutes and ladders really all the way down.
Sorry, let me grab this question real quick.
Yeah.
On the plus, I feel like that group knows that if they plot appropriately for the temple, that there is some bonus rewards in there that they may be able to get.
That's true. There's some sweet loot.
This is sweet loot. I mean, yeah, guys.
It's a really nice hammer and a really great bow.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where to start? Okay, so I have a question. So when the Nomad was taking you guys through, you guys, as if you, anyways, when the Nomad was taking you through everywhere, and you came up to the gladiator match, was that in another game that you've already done, Pedro, or is that something somewhere else?
Only one group has ever played in that world, and they don't know that world. Like, if you were to ask that group, if you were to somehow find that group and ask them, like, what's it like playing in that world? I don't think they could identify it. That is a world that the World Walkers have not reached yet. Or as the listeners like to call them now, the Dream Team, because there's the Dream Team, which is the World Walker Prime group. There's the Stream Team, which is the group that gets together on Wednesdays to play, and then there's the Steam Team, which is the Tuesday group that we're going to launch the new podcast about.
Awesome. Questions about that too. Okay, so that was a totally different world.
It's a whole new world that almost no one's seen so far.
Awesome.
I've already left my mark, so
Yeah.
Done.
So Wes, was there another question from someone? Was there any temptation to stay in Obrimos when it showed up, when the Nomad was using the cubic gate?
I don't know if Brummelstone has anything to return to on Obrimos right now, except for like misery and sadness. I mean, I guess like going back and getting revenge, but Claiborne is a stronger motivator than that. And I think with Brummelstone, like, it's such a strong connection to family that he would never leave. Like, even if Claiborne was like, stay with me and live here together happily forever, he'd be like, I gotta go back to my brother. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be, so I don't think he's all Obrimos, and he was just like, I got to get back to that Gareth guy. But other than that, like,
awesome. No, that makes sense. Not to mention there's creepy time masters and dragon monsters living in the.
I mean, Obrimos is great, and I hope someday we get back there, and it's just a beautiful, fun adventure, because I'm sure it will be.
Let's see. Trying to say all these in the different things.
Yeah.
So, what's up with the Shadow Dragon? Is that
in what way?
Connected to anything else?
I mean, obviously something has to be there for it to cast a shadow.
Right. Let me think what I can say about Elthenius. What I really enjoy what I really enjoy about Cog is that Cog is on the brink of leaving behind all the myths and legends of yesteryear, right? So, for the most part, you don't see a lot of crazy creatures. Like you see goblins and bugbears in the Ringing Mountains, like right outside of it. You see Umber Hulks deep inside, but like, most of the time they spent on Cog, they didn't really face really crazy like the wild and dangerous creatures of Cog tend to be way outside the purview of civilization. So, for instance, when they went through the mountain range, they fought the Venari, but like those things don't fly out towards civilization. The idea with Cog is that there's so much right outside of civilization that people still don't know about. Like, so for instance, if you were to see a map of Cog, most of the south is just heavy forest, and it's something called the Wilds, and that's where the Druids usually come from or move to. So every now and then, when a group goes really far outside of the civilizations of Cog, they find really weird, dark, twisted stuff. So, for instance, in the Twisting Swamps, they had come across this kind of like what Celeborn called a demigod. It's like this huge elemental force, and like Cog has not seen dragons for a long, long time, but the remnants of a dragon seem to still be hiding in that swamp. Just like if you were to go south of Phallus, there is an undead metropolis called Carmack, and there is the bones of a dragon that race and circle that city as well. So it's just like hints of what Cog might have been before it had kind of fallen the path of technology.
So it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the nightmares or anything like that.
That was a fun idea. And I don't usually like to like pop bubbles, but no, it's not. Yeah. It was a really cool idea. When I heard it, I was like, damn, I wish I was that good. That'd have been sweet. But no.
Okay, cool.
Nothing like that.
Let's see. I gotta cross out these things, or else I'm gonna keep asking them over and over again. Pedro, would you have killed off Claiborne in front of Wes, knowing his tender heart would shatter like a pane of glass?
Yeah.
I like the way that that's structured.
Yeah. She was actually not supposed to, but there was an incredibly real risk of her dying in the regular podcast, like when the Nightmare Giants rip out. Yeah, like she could barely fight. Yeah. Like, yes, that was the group had to work their ass off to save her because
There's a leave call button. Out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this.
Say it cost him a shard.
Well, yeah, oops. I don't. This is like the slightest of spoilers. But there's no context to it. I'm not afraid to make players upset. In a recent episode, Megan cried 5 times. 5 separate times, like full tears and stuff. So I'd clear Claiborne if Wes was there. Yeah, I might feel bad.
I loved the moment, and this is probably a while ago, so forgive me if we're all being a lot more present than you're remembering, Wes. But I loved the part where Wes is like, so listen, Pedro, me as Wes, I'm going to be very upset if I disappear and she's not there with me. Because she's going to die. So what do I need to do?
Yeah. And there was more like kind of threatening from Wes, but I cut it out. I thought that was like the core of the moment, and I didn't want to make Wes look like a bully.
I think I jokingly, I mean, even in that moment, I think, again, it was like, I don't know in particular if that was just that episode, but I feel like with only Brummelstone on the line, I felt a little more riskier, like could make those more risky plays where it was just like, okay, this has got to work, or it all kind of crumbles, and it was like, we'll find out. And I don't know, do you? have you told them, or I don't know if it's mentioned in the podcast, that listening for a large part of that was Megan and Jane? Like
I
quietly.
didn't mention it. No, for the first
So
chunk
occasionally
of
there
it,
were
yeah.
messages just like bloop bloop, like don't, no, what are you doing?
Yeah, every now and then somebody likes to watch one of the side adventures. So that was pretty funny.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny. Well, yeah, because you were saying that someone else watched Olivia and Megan's side adventure too.
Jane watched that one. Yeah.
I mean, I have to admit, having enjoyed the side adventures myself, I understand. I would want to be there too.
Yeah.
Cool.
'Cause I think I posted that one where Jane took a bunch of pictures of Megan's face throughout the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
So funny. Let's see. We've got so when you finally got to essentially the edge of the world, and you climb down into the cave and there's a druid there.
Mm-hmm.
I have a personal question. Is that the same son of a gun that someone in the chat let out of a cage?
No, but that is connected. It's connected.
But they're buds.
Yeah. I actually, the identity of, and if you guys guess it, I will tell you, but the identity of that person, I left a big clue in there as to who it was. So if someone figures it out, I will admit to it. But
Quick, go back to the chart. Turn around.
but yeah, no, it wasn't the character that has been encountered in the Patreon COG game. No, it's a different guy, but same company, same network.
Figured.
And that guy might be met again in your COG game, huh? I feel like I should just keep pushing the future COG game.
I do want to ask questions about that because I want to get there.
Sure.
Well, I was just curious. Is this would you say that this is actually kind of a in a roundabout way a teaser to the COD game?
No, so here's I mean it could be, I guess, but
what's the where they have like the episode where like Mad About You characters are on Friends or whatever, you know,
the
like
crossover.
Yeah, like remember to watch this in the next 30 minutes, the kind of thing.
Yeah. So here is something that's kind of hard to admit. So the World Walkers COD game that's coming up that we're going to do, because if anyone that doesn't know, we're doing a full-on new podcast. So I've got multiple groups that play, and the group that's kind of been like my old school group for a long time, they're pretty funny. They've been making some really fun adventures. They're airship mercenaries that travel the world of COG, picking up whatever jobs they want and just kind of busting heads. And they're a really, really fun group. I decided to make a podcast out of them. So I don't know how much you can see, but if I move my computer, you can see my table is set up for live podcasting. So we're going to start recording that. So what we've been recording game after game in the old system we were using, Savage Worlds. And it's pretty cool. It's really funny, I think. I've actually finished 2 episodes. And our last episode didn't record. And it was a big episode with a lot of lore. Had to do with the Church of Cagliostro that was seen in the Patreon stream. A lot of big shit. And I'm really sad. But without that episode, I don't know that it's worth editing the rest of the content. Because I would edit I've got hours and hours of game. But would anyone want to listen to it if there's no ending? So I've got 2 episodes done. I'm debating whether or not I want to release them just for fun, but that's kind of the crossover because their storyline is that they get picked up, they get hired by Claiborne.
What?
Yeah, because she wants to retrieve the heart of Elthenius.
Nice.
In the undead metropolis of Carmack. So she hires them, and you see what Claiborne's like. You see what Claiborne's like without Brummelstone with the curse in full effect.
Yeah.
But there's no ending now because it didn't record. So I'm trying to debate if I want to release them or not, and if it's worth spending, like hours and hours of editing for a storyline with no ending.
No, just make it. Just take. maybe someone on your podcast takes extremely meticulous notes, and you could, just publish it as like an article.
Maybe I'll ask. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. So if you guys want to hear at least those 2 episodes, like let me know in comments or something like that. What's up?
Was this a different arc than the previous episodes that you had posted?
Yeah, it's like right out. That's that storyline, and then right after is the next storyline. So, but anyway, so that's more of the crossover than anything. But,
all right. Well, let's jump back over since we've got Wes here.
Yeah.
That's me.
So let's see. I think Data just sent this in. Anyways, how much forethought went into you being a summoner, which we kind of talked about earlier. Sorry, you'll have to catch up. And how do you feel being attached to another metal person?
I always feel good. The metal men are my people, I think, at this point.
Brummel Bros.
Brummel Bros. I mean, I worry that Roberto's going to not feel a kinship to this. It's like bringing home a new child.
Who's
never
bigger
know
and stronger.
Yeah. You never know how it's going to go. So that's exciting. But yeah, no, I think Brummelstone also picked that, like part of like when looking at that, because as we were saying, I kind of got to look at all the stones. I liked what that, like the benefits that gave to me. And then it also felt like Brummelstone would be pulled to that based on his experience, with like an elemental, with Roberto and stuff like that. Even though technically Roberto is powered by wind elemental, but he is in this metal body, so
legit.
It's still a really cool. Like it is a good connector. I liked that a lot. I also just want to see you guys get to level 18. That's something everyone will be able to see later. But
Jay, because Brian asked to see the summoner class ahead of time, so I was like, "Oh, I wonder why." And then he was like, "This is cool," and I was like, "Oh, so no." I was like, well, I wonder what sort of lore-based questions he's going to start with. No, nothing. He just likes it. Okay, cool.
I do. Yeah, no, it's really neat.
The class is super neat, and I'm excited to see how that to see it play out. I don't know if I, spoiler alert, am the best summoner in the world, but
well, Data's played it before. Data's played a version of it before.
Was the best wizard.
And then in the new podcast, we don't know. We're translating the characters from Savage Worlds over to D&D 5e. So there's someone who might be a summoner because they've had a summon for a while now, but they're trying to decide how much it's a part of their system. So they might be a summoner. But if you watch Wednesday nights, Frank plays a light summoner from Rolanus. So
nice.
Yep.
Formerly of Rolanus. He's still alive. I'm not saying he's dead. So let's see. We got some other questions. Wes, knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently during the adventure?
We'll never have gone. Let's see. I would have.
He would have picked the deck. He would have played the card mage.
No, I would have punched that guy right off the bat. I would have negotiated stronger with the Nomad. Because I feel like he ended up getting like a better of that deal. Like, sure, he lost some, but gotta spend money to make money, buddy. Like,
well, they stumbled across Summoner Stones in one of the other games.
Oh yeah,
and he's making making some money. I think they were selling them for like 10,000 a piece at the time.
Yeah. And I think I might have picked like different items, but I think it would have to been one of those things where it's like I was prepared and just like spent days reviewing the things and been like, here are my top 8 picks for this. Right. I think I looked and there's like the Trumpet of Valhalla, which is where you like summon an army outwards. You like blow a horn and you can summon an army of like 8d12 guys or something. I don't remember it, but it's just like this ridiculous thing. And it was just like, oh yeah, if I knew that Snake Temple was coming up, like I would have just been like, those guys go.
Well, I took it out of the pocket thing, but it was kind of almost like, if you'll forgive me, like adorable, because like you were like, I think you saw that horn and you were like, I'm not gonna do that to Pedro. And I was like, I'm about to do it to you. You should probably pick whatever you want. Like, pick your shit, man. Like, because you're like, I don't want to break the game, and I was like, okay.
I mean, I think,
thank you.
Maybe I would have been a little more no holds barred on picking stuff. I think maybe I would have just reviewed my magic weapons choices better. But it's also like one of those things again where it's like I like finding them and like fitting them in versus like getting like there's people who play D&D and are min-maxers, and I'm just not one of them. I'm there for the story, which is why I'm like, Brummelstone's going to put his life on the line for this, and this is probably a stupid mistake, but it makes a good moment. Like it makes a tense moment. Ideally, I don't know, if you've listened to the podcast and enjoyed it, then maybe it makes a tense moment where Brummelstone's like, all right, I'll lay down all the magical weapons because this is the only way I can get there. Because I have to talk to this demigod, and even then I think he still is like, and I still have a spell to blast me away, so I have a back out plan. Like Brummelstone didn't enter unequipped, but he was just like, all my weapons are technically gone. Yes, I've adhered to the law of the land.
That's right.
And anything sentient can be negotiated with. I feel like was Brummelstone's thought at that moment.
Let's see. No, that's good. Sorry, I'm trying to keep track of these questions. So this is a good question. Did you get to multi-class, or did you retrain the character for all the levels that you had?
I guess you'll have to listen to the next episode and find out.
It's gonna be a while. You might as well tell him because you miss a couple games.
I don't know if you've caught on to this yet, but I'm not smart enough to multi-class. So. I've as long as I've been playing D&D, which is like been sixth grade or so, with like with breaks in there for like life and stuff, I've never multi-classed, and it's really just been because, again, like I'm more interested in the story, so I'm just like, well, these like having these limited tools is like the way you can like gives you something to work off of. I think I'm kind of one of those guys who always believe like too many tools, like, and you don't have the best route versus like if you're limited at something, then like I'll take a, I think I've made bards with one eye, and they're like, well, you're going to lose sight, things, but it's like, yeah, but he's got an eye patch and it's cool, and he goes into his backstory. Like, I'll take that over maybe like necessarily, having super vision or whatever, which I think it's probably has hurt Brummelstone in the past, but.
It's good though, because it does equal more drama when you are not as super as like you're not a superhero. You're
I mean, like this is
regular dwarf with some magic.
To get way off tangent, like Batman is far more interesting than Superman ever will be, because like you can only Superman in a fight is stupid. Like Superman fights Doomsday, they're just going to keep punching each other until one of them stops punching, and then Batman in a fight, like he has to figure out his way around that, right? So to me that's more interesting. And then Superman's, when he has superpowers, you have to question his moral integrity, which you can do with Batman just as easily. I don't know. This is like a long tangent to be like Batman's better. Don't at me, bro, or whatever the kids say. Feel free to disagree.
It's funny. Let's see. I don't really know what this question means, but I'm going to ask it. Data sent it in. Why would Brummelstone say that Roberto never talks about the master?
So Brummelstone.
I have a meta answer for that afterwards if you want.
So in-game logic is that the master spent a lot of time helping Brummelstone figure out his magical path and to get the parts to build Roberto, and then maybe was there briefly afterwards, so Roberto was less engaged with him. I think the real answer is that Enzo forgets that guy was that there is a quote-unquote like father figure in there. So
Roberto doesn't really care about anything but Brummelstone, I think, when it comes to Abrimos. And the meta answer is that like when they came up with the backstory, Wes wrote a bunch of ideas, and Enzo said, "Yeah, that's awesome."
Yeah. And I don't think
And I was like, are you okay with this, Enzo? He's like, "Yeah, cool, man. I like it.
Just want to play.
Kind of just like his name's Roberto. He pokes people in the butt.
The proctologist.
If you need me, I'll be in my quarters." He just kind of got up and left.
Though I will say this about Enzo, which I appreciate, and interesting because we've played like 2 games, and both times his characters are usually outsiders who are young and experiencing the world for the first time. Like I think
They've both been Canadian, yeah.
Yes, yeah. They're like there's like a naivety, and I think it allows Enzo to still be kind of naive about D&D, and kind of I think he's still feeling his way in, and I think he's definitely like he's a different player than he started as. I think even like last episode, we gave Enzo like a tough challenge, and Enzo had to choose, and it's like if Enzo when we started would like had melted, I think maybe rudely, but I don't want to say
it would have been it would have handled it a lot rougher.
Yeah, it like definitely was a decision he wouldn't have made as easily or with like the thought to the story that he did.
Yeah.
And so like not in like a bad way, but just experience way. So yeah, I think yeah. So I think part of it is Enzo kind of is like he's a little timid to kind of lay claim in the world, which is hard. I think everyone when they first come to D&D is like, I want to rock the boat too much, kind of thing. Some people come in and are just like, I'm making a character that's gonna flip your world upside down. You're like, thanks guys.
Thanks everybody. Let's see. One for Pedro. What kind of planning did it take to set up this adventure?
Kind of planning. I had to think. Yeah, nothing. Didn't do anything.
Totally ad-libbed.
No, I had to. I think when it came out, I was like, or when it came time, I was like, okay, so I always like to do this. I always like to tie it in to either previously established story or other characters' stories and stuff like that. So I kind of spread my theoretical stories out and said, like, where do I want to tie this out? And I also, like, I try to keep track of, like, the current time in game. So, like, I had to think, like, what has happened in the games that I'm also running everywhere else? Where does this best fit? And so when he said he wanted a metal elemental, I was like, okay, so that's got to come from Cog. So let's see. And so I looked at that, and I was like, where... I just kind of had to think, like, who can get him to the elemental stones? I tried to think about it, and I was like, okay. So it starts off with trying to figure out, like, how and who. And then once I got those through, I just had to tie those together. And then I'm like, one of the big questions I was asking myself is, what makes that interesting? Like, why... Yeah. So, like, okay, the Nomad's going to take him and ask him to get the stones. But why? Who cares? Like, why does that matter? Why is that an interesting plot development? What if the Nomad was screwed and almost like the Nomad equivalent of homeless? Okay, and then like, well, and I keep trying to think like, I'll make something go like, is this interesting enough? Is there enough texture, enough grip on this story hook to feel good about? And then if it's not, I'll keep adding a little bit to it. And then I was like, well, I want to make some choices in front of Brummelstone so that when he does pick Summoner, it's legitimate. It's not just like, I'd like to be a Summoner. One Summoner coming up. There we go. Like, so like that Card Master class is real. Like he could have picked that. And I wanted to kind of lay some of that in the way so that all the choices are authentic. So like I try to like always try to plot out the authenticity as well, as long as like not just the grip or the interestingness, if you will, of adventure, but like the authenticity of it as well. And then once I realized Cog and the Nomad, then I tried to like think of like what would make sense. Well, the Nomad would probably want to exploit Brummelstone's, connection with Claiborne because she's the treasure hunter. Like she's not an adventurer. Right. She's a treasure hunter. If he wants treasure, he'd want to go through her. So like, and then that's how the pieces all start. And then like, I kind of created like a basic map of where her life would be. And then I wrote out descriptions on the different places. Like, here's what ASO looks like right now, or ESO looks like right now. Here's what the Merchant City of Holland looks like at the moment. I just kind of quickly wrote all those out, and then kind of create a framework so that like, as long as he follows where I think he's gonna go, I've got everything prepped. And if he doesn't, I know my world's enough that I can compensate for that, so I don't try to railroad anyone. But when it comes to battles and stuff, I'm kind of notorious for not balancing the battles correctly. Like, Elthenius is a wild fight. So like that's why like the World Walkers spend a lot of time trying to talk their way out of everything and sneaking away from everything. And sometimes I'm not, at least in the past I wasn't ready for that, but sometimes it's legitimate.
Yeah.
Because Elthenius was an incredibly difficult fight.
I think in every D&D game, like a lot of times people don't think like talking their way out is a legitimate way out, and I appreciate that. Like this group has always been like, can we negotiate a way out? Because we'll negotiate. Like, and it like is an interesting because there are like choices where we've had to make where it's like, all right, so we could fight this, but where would that leave us? You know, on the grand scheme of things, I think like leaving like COG, it's like we go over there and whatever thing is back behind that door, we could go fight. But I'm gonna guess that it's not just guarding nothing. You know?
Yeah, but that is one thing that the side effect of that is this. I think you guys are the only group left that get straight experience points. Every other group I've moved to milestone, and the reason is, all honesty, the dream team will pick avoiding and non-conflict every single time if it's available. The dream team will never, ever fight anything if they don't have to. If they can walk around everything.
It's a bunch of artists. What do you expect?
I'm saying, like, if the dream team can walk around an encounter, sneak around an encounter, or talk their way through an encounter, they will. There is not one person in the group that's like, fuck this motherfucker. Like, no. They will avoid every single, like, it took me a while to realize that, and I had to start redesigning the game a little bit. Like from how I usually run games, because like they will avoid everything. So the only side effect is that by avoiding, they don't get XP, because there's got to be some incentive for fighting, man. Like,
I will also say that like part of that is ingrained in like the way the game is set up, because it is like there are nightmares coming and we're not going to be able to avoid those fights. So any energy used to fight goblins or dwarfs or, you know, doppelgangers, it's going to be energy that could possibly, you know, we don't know when the shadows or the nightmares are going to show up. So it's just like, oh, we could be in the middle of that fight and all these guys just like run up on us. So like if we don't get in that fight and those guys run up on us, we only have one, you know, like
I don't think it's the incorrect way, but I think that like
it's definitely like a different than like most of the groups. Most of the groups are like, okay, so there's a goblin horde in front of us. Cool.
We can wipe them out real fast.
Yeah, we'll just take the archers on the points. There'll be about 100 XP apiece. It's gonna get me closer to level 7. Okay, great. Yeah. Perfect.
Done. Josh points out that they could just add Frank to the team.
Yeah, he seems like a pretty good brawler. I mean, I will say though that the interesting part about World Walkers, interesting part about World Walkers is because you guys do try to talk or sneak your way out of it. It does make moments like when Vasa like just straight up shanks a dwarf and just walks away and it's like wrong team. And you're just like, oh wow, like it feels more poignant though. Versus like just a team of murder hobos, like of course they murdered that person.
Yeah,
makes sense, you know. Like, but like in those moments, you're just like, oh,
okay. Well, let's play it that way.
I mean, it still makes sense for her character. But okay, we gotta catch my breath a little bit.
Yeah.
So like in those moments, though, it does make, it makes for an interesting story though, because it's more depth to it. Let's see. For Pedro, why did Pedro decide to focus on the side adventure instead of jumping back and forth between Brummelstone was doing and the rest of the party.
One of the biggest reasons, if I'm understanding the question quickly, is this. One of the things I don't talk about a lot, but one of the things I really pride myself on is that it's going to sound like shade or sass. So this is we're all safe. This is Vegas. No one's going to talk outside. I pride myself on the fact that World Walkers is an actual play podcast. A lot of other podcasts say they're actual play, and then they edit the shit out of their podcast and rearrange it so it makes a better story. That's awesome. That's totally do it. Like, you make better products for yourself that way if you're doing it the way you want to do it. But it's not an actual play podcast. That's something different. We're an actual play podcast. So, like, if I start chopping up and going back and forth, I feel that it's making things less authentic, because now I'm creating drama that wasn't there. Like, if I do some stuff with Brummelstone and then cut over to the game, that's not how it happened. And so it might make, I'm full admission, it might make for a better learning or listening experience. It might make some really cool shit. I could probably do a lot better job at this. But at the end of the day, I can always say I released an actual play podcast. And that matters a lot to me, because like, that's why I don't change my voice. Like, any voice you hear me do, like when I'm Paddington, that's me. I'm not using any kind of like post audio. Like, it's just like, oh, I don't think we should go that way. Or if I'm doing like Elthenius, that was all me. It was just like, you have made, like, it's just me. I'm not fucking around with any kind of audio post production or whatever. Like, so I'm only because my dream one day is to play in front of like a convention, like in front of people. And I don't want them to go, oh my God, he's like the CeeLo Green of podcasts. He's way better on the record. Like, because CeeLo Green post produces the shit out of his stuff. And he sounds terrible live. And I don't want to sound like, I won't be nervous the day I go on a stage, because you've heard me as worse as I get and as good as I get.
Yeah.
So I think that would make a better podcast in some ways. But I can always say that I was authentic.
I think you're talking about too, like the difference between like what is quote unquote like reality TV, where things are rearranged, drama recreated. Maybe they've happened in one plot, but like are produced like a final produced product, versus something more that's akin to a documentary. Like, and maybe that's like high conversation about it, but it is just like there's something to be said about like, this is the way events happened. We've just cut out kind of a lot of the uhs and and hms.
Well, I even leave those in more and more now, because they make the conversation more natural. It sounds, when you take out all the ums, it sounds weird. You can tell, the ear can perceive that it's just like, why is this conversation going so fast?
Yeah, it's going.
The only thing I cut out is if we're like, okay, so we have to go decide what are we going to do here, and there's 5 ideas. I leave a little bit of discussion and then cut to the decision, because I don't think anybody wants to hear anybody be indecisive. Like, if you had to hear me and my friends decide where we're going to eat, you would hate that podcast. It takes forever.
Actually, that's a really great place. I'm going to plug Where Are We Going to Eat Tonight? This is my new podcast coming up, where it's just me and my wife and my friends deciding where are we going to eat tonight. And then my toddler yells in the background. It's lovely. And then we, you know what? You never know, because we don't decide on the actual podcast.
Right. Well, that even better.
You never eat out. You just make whatever. And
we'll just do something.
Well, because there's always one person that says, I don't care. I'm down for whatever. Do you want to go to Long John Silver's? I don't know. I mean, it's whatever. It's not my place, but no. Yeah.
I've started here are 3 options.
That's what I do.
Yep.
You 3 options. You just eliminate at least one. Like, you don't have to choose.
Tell me the place you hate.
Yeah.
I do that.
And then I'm going to choose, and I'll choose from the next 2, or like, here are the 5 options I know that are close.
Okay. Sorry, that was a tangent, but
no, that is the solution to that problem, is what we're giving.
But that's why I didn't do that. I thought about it. I've thought about it a lot, but I think whether it makes for a better or worse product, at least it's authentic for me.
Dave's jumping back. He's like, the 3-option method is the best.
It is. You don't. If you give
talking about the podcast, you finished up your thought about the podcast after talking about the restaurant thing.
Yeah.
You were like, and so that's the way I do it now.
Yep.
Let's see. And somebody asked about how cubic gates work. I believe it was
How do they work? Well, so basically, a cubic gate is a device with 6 sides, each one of them capable of creating a portal to a specific world. Cubic gates only have 3 charges, so it's really hard to use them as like teleportation methods across worlds. I mean, across the same world. So I think it it can be. That's why they had to keep jumping off a world and then coming back to it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're just these really cool 6-sided devices that allow you to travel to 6 different locations. And they do it by, like I said, by ripping portals to allow you to world walk.
Cool. Well, let's see. We are technically at the end.
Well, I'm here as long as you guys want to be here.
It's fine with me too. I just wanted to make sure.
Sorry, guys, I'm out. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank God.
Gosh, I can't believe it took this long. Yeah, like I take it off, you can still hear me talking in the background. Like, oh my gosh, this was awful.
And then real quick, Data asks, I'll try to remember this, how are sides attuned? There's surprisingly little lore about, because it's a D&D item. It's nothing I made up. So there's not a lot of lore on it. They just kind of, in mine, the way that I do it is that cubic gates are aligned to the world by the runes that are transcribed in them. So they are, each world has a kind of a symbol that's associated with it. And when someone crafts a cubic gate, they make sure that that symbol is attached to that world, or to that side. So a cubic gate that does not have the right, if you don't know the rune associated with that world, you can't go there. So that's the only other additional piece of lore I can think of with the cosmic cubes. Or cubic gates.
Quick follow-up question to that. Are the runes the same as in the Cagliostro signs?
Yeah, those who have played or listened to watch the streams, every now and then a group will find a church. And in that church there will be spheres with runes in them. And same one. Same runes.
Cool.
Yep.
I'm very intrigued with that. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. Like anything that
have we gotten through all our questions?
We've gotten through all the ones that I've gotten.
Yeah, hit us up with anything.
Except for this one, which I'll just go to.
This is the West one.
Data wasn't here earlier, so he wanted to know how your animatic was going.
Yeah,
my animatic was good. I actually finished up all the ink layers for the main characters. There's 2 characters in the fight last night, and so now I need to do a few more backgrounds and then color and then shade and then question my whole entire existence. So not much.
Just think the next one will take 98% of the same time that this one took. So
the next one is just like not so many angle changes is what I'm learning. same shot, guys. Just carry it on through.
Just 1 frame per shot.
Yes.
Lots of talking.
But yeah, hit us up with whatever. You can ask me life questions, game questions, movie questions. I don't know.
All right. So here's a question for both of you, since you've had to listen to the audio. What was Brummelstone's finest moment in this side adventure?
Finest moment.
I can tell you my favorite. My personal favorite. My personal favorite is when you're speaking with the druid and he's trying to hear you out and see what's up. And you're just going to sell all this shit. And it's like you're finally in a position where you have no moral high ground that you can explain. And it was one of my favorite parts is listening to you just go like, I'm tired. I don't want to do this. Give me the stone. Because one of the things I find fascinating about D&D is that you ever watch a horror movie with somebody and they scream at the TV and they go like, why are you doing that? You're so dumb. You can't do that. That's so don't go that way. The killer's that way because you have a bird's eye view and they don't.
Yeah.
So one of the things I love in D&D is players have that same sort of restriction on themselves. Players can see everything, so they get mad when the NPCs can't. And so it wasn't exactly that situation, but like a lot of times you hear that where like one of the world walkers will be like, hey, we need this. Why? Because we're trying to save the world. What are you talking about? Oh my God. I don't have time to deal with you. We're trying to save the world. Well, I don't know anything about that. Why are these guys so stupid? If I took, because like, you know, players have that weird restriction where they can't see things a lot of times through the eyes of people who are not part of their story.
Yeah.
So like the druid's questioning Brummelstone, and Brummelstone's like, give me the fucking stones. I just like I'm too tired. I've gone through too much. I'm like, no idea what the druid's been through to get here. It's like, I just want them. I just need them.
That's true. I also think I knew at that point druids tended to be fanatical in their beliefs. So it was just like, I'm not going to out-argue at this point in time. And I think mentally I was just like, it is also late and I'm not going to mentally out-argue.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to win this fight because you're right. I am going to go sell this.
You're just gonna, I'm gonna rip the shit out of these stones. Like Data says,
promise me they'll be used for greatness. Like some. Yes.
Data brings up a really good moment that really encapsulates it. It's like when he talking to the shadow dragon, and he's like, "So she brought your heart back. She's good. She's sorry. We're good, right? Like, why can't we just leave and give you everything you want?" And it's like this. There's a lot of emotion in this dragon situation. It's like, but we gave you it. Why can't we just?
I mean, to be fair, if you're a demigod or some sort of god, I believe it was sold as the heart of a god. Like, missing a heart for a few, 20, 30 years, like, lame, yes, but move on, guy. You got, like, all eternity here. Just move on.
Have you ever studied what happens when you put somebody in solitary confinement?
Yes, they go insane.
Yeah, you cannot put some... We need... Of all the terrible tortures and things we can do to people, one of the worst is putting you in a room by yourself.
The second worst is open offices, surprisingly enough.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, isolation is one of the worst things you can do to the human mind. So, like, I since there's little things that I know about, like, human conditions and stuff that make it hard to be a GM. So, for instance, torture doesn't work.
Yeah,
time and time again, they show you torture doesn't work. People don't. What works is kindness and empathy, and whether it's fake or not, like relatability and like, hey, look, so we know you're in a bad. Like, torture doesn't work. You never get what you want. Every player in the world believes and knows in their heart that if we could just start ripping fingernails off, this motherfucker's gonna crack. So it happened in a recent episode, like around in the high 60s, I think, or in the 60s, where Vasa wants to torture a hobgoblin, and the hobgoblins have lost their minds by now. They're completely invaded by nightmares. They're not feeling anything, and she's like, "Do you want pleasure or pain?" And he's just like, and she's like, "Why doesn't this work?" Because I know that torture doesn't work, but if you play that appropriately, it becomes a very game breaking notion for players. Who are like, "Oh bullshit, he could withstand these daggers." Not that Jane did that. I'm not saying that, but like in a lot of other games I've run, torture doesn't work, and they're like, "Oh, we are right." I would talk if someone cut my toes off. No, you wouldn't. But yeah, it's kind of like mistletoe. You guys know mistletoe, right? Mistletoe doesn't look like mistletoe, but if you draw mistletoe like what it actually looks like, people are like, "What is that? That's wrong." So you have to draw mistletoe like a tally.
Yeah. Yes. I do know that.
There's an extended conversation about
mercy or pain. Thank you. Not pleasure or pain. Sorry.
In the design world, where it's just like good design doesn't always succeed because people are so used to seeing bad design that like when you give them something that's like amazing, they're kind of like, but everything else I see it's not made as nicely, so it feels out of place. And so why you see like a lot of design trends that aren't that great sometimes because
you got to do it because that's what people respond to.
Yeah, and people. So it's an interesting like even like people will think the other design is better, but then they'll choose this one because it's familiar.
Yep.
So it's like the same kind of like, even if you draw mistletoe the way mistletoe should be drawn, people are like, but I am used to this other way. So
I don't like good coffee.
Yeah.
Like
I don't
people are
like
like,
coffee
oh, try this
or
coffee. Try, oh, this is such a great roast. It's a dark. It's this. Like, stop it. I
Yeah.
want shitty coffee, lots of cream, lots of sugar. Don't give me gourmet coffee. It's gonna taste like garbage to me. Because I've only known terrible coffee, so that's what I like. Oh, good question. Data asked, will there be another side quest later about Brummelstone in the Flats? We have that option in our back pocket. We don't know if there ever will be one. Like, we haven't recorded one, but we liked that idea that like was a whole nother thing we could explore if we wanted to. Someone in the Discord chat suggested I do more Patreon goals, and I could make that one a Patreon goal, but I'm waiting because I promised you guys the musical episode still and the Ertleby backstory episode. So, business wise, it would be smart for me to make more goals, but I'm not making anything until I get those out to you guys because I feel really bad. So,
I mean, it's not like you're
Guys,
dealing with a lot. I mean, just moving, medical
Cancer.
issues, raising a 4-year-old. None of this is really. You should be able to record at least 62 games.
but I will tell you. So,
Pedro.
I decide my wife and I were talking about it, and we decided on the plot to the adventure, to the musical episode.
Oh.
And this week I'm going to send out requests. I'm going to ask, because the way we're going to do it is I'm going to ask each player, what's the song you want to sing? And the original goal is that, like, I think Enzo's going to do a parody song, but I think the rest of them are going to make up their own songs.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone will tell me what beats they want to hit, what songs they want to sing for their character. And then I'll wrap the rest of the story around the beats that we need to hit. And then any music that they can't play or that they can't record, if we don't have the right equipment to record it right, my wife's going to write all that music then.
That's awesome.
So,
so awesome. Oh, man.
Yeah. Another question. Will Pedro ever move the other World Walker Patreon card games to YouTube? That's a great question. I need to. I'm really sorry. Because somebody was like really excited to. They hit me up today and they said, "I just found the World Walker cog games on YouTube. I'm so excited." I'm like, don't get so excited. They're not all there. I need to. This is the real truth. Just to give you guys a heads up. I'm a broken record on this, but like I just don't think I like me. I like World Walkers. But I'm very naive as to how much people actually want to see. So, like, it doesn't strike me that people would actually want to see those. Like, I'm like, oh, you want... I guess I could. So, like, somebody hit me up and said, like, hey, where... Brian actually was like, hey, where are the original Rolanus episodes that aren't up on YouTube yet? And I'm like, my first thought is always like, why? Oh, you want to... Oh. Well, all right, I guess. Like, I'm just very naive about it. I don't ever assume anybody wants to see anything that I do.
I mean, there's at least one really handsome guy on COG.
That's true.
At least one.
Thank you.
I mean, I should say that, like, I think
it's great because almost everybody in the chat's from that game.
I think what you're overlooking is that you've made such interesting worlds that, like, any little bit of lore that, like, we can get, we'll take. And so there's a lot of times where it's just like, yes, release that so I can just learn just a bit more so the next game. And they all feed to each other.
Well,
so I think, like, you're downplaying, maybe you're thinking too much as Pedro, and your creation of worlds is so fascinating and so, like, fun to play in. I think Brian would agree. And I think maybe other people in the chat will agree. And this may be a little bit of, like, you may not feel comfortable right now, but it's okay. Just sit in it and take this. Don't pull your hat down. Look me in the eye here. Look me in the eye.
I can't. I look in the eye. I'm not looking at you anymore.
Yeah, no, that was like, yeah, no, but like because you've made such interesting worlds that, like, yeah, we want those other things, and even like like, and that's why people want to hear the Savage World stuff, even if it doesn't necessarily have an ending, because there's more of that lore in there, And so anytime you can get to those little nuggets, even if you have to listen to Brian talk for like 20 minutes,
he's the worst.
Yeah.
I hate that guy.
Who's this gunslinger and why is it? Just shut up and let Pedro tell the story.
Well, I
Why does
think
he keep dropping his gun all the time? What an idiot.
Yes.
I think I've told this story before, but like when we first started, I assumed that everybody would want to listen to you guys because like I tried to be a cartoonist, it didn't work, but you guys actually were all cartoonists, and so like that's why I never drew like a profile pic of myself because I'm like, well, the game's really about them. And so when I think it was actually Brian that like threw me the curveball because like I had just assumed like in the live draws I don't draw because I didn't think I was supposed to be there in a certain sense. Like it's for the players. Like this is your chance to talk to the players and stuff like that. So when I started getting questions about like just for me, I was like, oh. Well, I would sometimes skip the question. I'm like, well, I don't want to waste anyone's time with that. Like, I can just answer that in private or something like that. It took me a long time to accept that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I think people come because we are cartoonists and they know us, but they come to listen to a good game of D&D, and that's what you bring to the table. Like,
well, it's been
we
weird
make jokes. We make jokes in between your like beautifully set up shots and acts, and we kind of bumble our way from one amazing moment to the next that you've like established. Case in point, all 4 episodes of Strange Magic. Just listen to them all. You'll hear me bumbling through while Pedro makes art.
That has been an interesting side effect is that like when we first started, everybody was one of your guys' fans. You guys are pushing the podcast pretty hard, and it was like really good exposure. But as time has gone on, I know it's very hard. I was mentioning this another stream. We talked about it recently. The World Walkers have a hard time talking about the game because I'm editing September right now of last year, so we're almost a year ahead. So like, since we're so far ahead, it can be very difficult for the World Walkers to talk about the game. I think Brian, you had mentioned before, like you and Wes sometimes hang out in games. And you're like, hey, how was the game? And Wes like, it was good.
Yeah, he won't give away anything. It's so lame. I come here for spoilers.
Yeah.
It helps that our friend Daryl is there too, and he has no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So he's just like, well, I could regale you with 45 minutes of exactly what happened over the last 3 hours, but Daryl would leave.
He was just, yeah.
Daryl would be like, guys, I really got to not spend my Friday night doing this. Click.
Yeah. So like, as we get in new people, they're like, oh, they're cartoonist? And I'm like, yeah. Like, that's been kind of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Let us know. But
Still going to.
What's up?
Nothing. I heard that Connor may have been somewhere, and I'm very excited to find out more. But it's like such a deep dive that I'll just ask you about it later.
Yeah. Like editing the other podcast episodes, it's a little tricky because like we're recording the first game of the new story that's going to be the actual World Walkers COG moment, or World Walkers COG podcast, which I'm really excited about because like the way we're going to launch it is I'm going to do player interviews with each person first.
Cool.
I'm going to draw all the art for the characters, which is scary. And then I'm going to release 3 episodes at once so that when you jump in, if you like it, you can just like dig right through. Hey, Callie. But so like we got a lot of prep for that. We had talked about like maybe I'm not at a point where I can hire someone to help edit podcast episodes. So like I've got to think of a way to get through that. Because basically like someone suggested we just release some unedited. Which I don't know if anybody would be up for that. Because they'd be like 3 hours a piece. Maybe 2.5. Yeah. I could do this, but I still need someone to listen to it, if for no other reason, just to make sure everything's safe. Because, like, yeah. So the group has offered to listen to all the episodes. Like, Callie takes an episode, Frank takes an episode, my friend Nathan takes an episode, my friend Reggie takes an episode, and they listen and go, like, they earmark, like, oh, you should probably take that part out. So if everyone's willing it, maybe I will still do it. And Data will listen to the episode. That's cool too.
I won't. I hate the podcast.
That's
So
fair.
I hated that this had to be the way that you found out, but I never actually listened to World Walkers before. Is it good?
Is it good? And then it'll be a long time before it comes out, but my brother-in-law is making a World Walkers game.
Nice.
With the intent of putting it up on Steam, and yeah,
Ooh.
I don't know how long it's going to take him to do it because he's building everything from scratch and stuff. But
3D, 2D. I'm gonna I need final approval on Brummelstone's beard length.
Yeah,
I believe that's in my contract.
Well, his version of Tompkins looks very different than the one I imagined, and he's like, "Is it okay?" I'm like, "Dude, it's your game. Like, however you think he looks, that's how he looks. Like, he wants to be like almost like Barney Rubble, stocky with a beard or a goatee. I think it's awesome. I'm excited.
It's so funny.
So yeah. Any other questions? Did someone ask Wes something? When is Brummelstone gonna choke someone out with his mighty beard?
In the next 4 episodes.
Next 4 episodes. Wes' favorite cog moment for the Patreon guys?
Now, which group? Now, like, you're talking about your group, Data, and Brian?
I don't know.
Because I think that's what is my favorite cog moment from your guys's.
You did watch most of it, so
yeah. There was this moment where you put Data down a hole. Druids were like at top. The land shark monster was there, and there was a gnomish door, and the land shark monster was sleeping, and it was just this like, like it was the moment in The Simpsons where Sideshow Bob is surrounded by rakes, and anywhere he gets smacked in the face by a rake. It's just that he just keeps stepping for, and it felt like that moment. Like, you could just see there was like nothing but traps around, and the group had to make a decision. Can't even remember what the decision was, but I remember just being like, in that moment, being like, oh no. I did also appreciate Connor's throwing of guns.
yeah.
Brian's characters couldn't hold onto a gun.
I totally min-maxed.
I think I liked all the moments when you would be like attacked by like the shadow guys, like the shadow assassins, and half the group would say, "You know what? We'll stand down," and the other half of the group would be like, "Attack violently."
Fuck them up.
The dog killing. And then what you had to go through there.
Oh man!
You had to transport it to a system and be like, "Dogs, kill them all."
Yeah.
They're just
Mumford.
Only for a guy. Yeah, Mumford and
Mumford and their sons. Yeah.
And then only for Torrance to come around and be like, "Hey, what's going on?
What'd you do to my dog?"
What? They were just here guarding the thing. We're trying to keep this guy safe."
For those that don't know what we're talking about, if you want to, I'll try to get the rest of the COG episodes uploaded, and then I'll put a link up. Well, that's a question I'll ask you guys. And like, do you guys have favorite World Walker moments? I'll add the chat too. Like, throw them in there in the chat too. I'll read them out loud. But like, Brian and Wes, do you guys have like a favorite World Walkers moment, side adventure or no?
Every moment with Brummelstone is just great.
Got it in one.
No, I think my favorite Brummelstone moment is from his first side adventure with Claiborne. It's Claiborne shattering crystals into him yelling "Dickweed," him going down, shattering Dickweed down. This is like this great repeat of just like flinging, just because the visual is this like comedic to me is this bar of like, Brummelstone immediately like not necessarily learning any lessons from it, but just being like, it felt like probably the truest Brummelstone moment. Scatter is still a great moment. Go back to the place where we're all supposed to meet up. Oh yes, I was actually really clear on the place until you said it was the secret place where we were all supposed to meet up. She's Ertleby's speech near that episode with the doppelgangers is a great one. Finding Paddington again is always nice. I love the turtle. Was it Kellett? Yeah, I liked him. I liked that he talked slow. Everything. What else was there? I like the are we the baddies?
Are we the baddies?
Are we the baddies? There's a moment coming up in a little bit where Pedro goes on this explanation of stuff, and it's, to me, it was probably my favorite just written part.
Oh, the big lore dump?
Yeah, like there's a big,
oh man, yeah,
which is like, and I think it also there's another Brummelstone moment a little before that I really like too.
Yeah, if you guys like really deep lore, there is an episode, maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 episodes away, and
yeah,
that is like that's like a huge exposition episode coming out where it's just like tons of like it goes pretty deep. I'd forgotten that was coming up so soon.
Yeah, it's just so well written. I still think about it. Yeah, like just
Thanks.
like how it's laid out.
There's a lot of fun developing the NPC that you speak to. Yeah. What about Brian? Anything stick out?
A couple things. I think probably one of the funniest moments still to date was when Ertleby pretended to be dead on the ship and had like jam, and Megan just like without missing a beat is like, she was always a sweet old lady.
It's such a good one.
Oh,
that moment, and on Megan and Olivia's side adventure when they kill Paddington. And Megan's like, you killed Paddington. She's like, they'll never believe you.
No one will believe you.
That was hilarious. Oh man, there's so many really good. I mean, honestly, like even at the very beginning when you guys met Tompkins for the first time, and you're like, can you build us armor? And he's like, sure.
Yeah, he's like, I'm an architect. Like you build armor.
And then and then like at the beginning, for whatever reason, it was really funny because like each of you had like something that you were just really bad at rolling at. And for Megan, it was perception, but everybody kept putting her on guard. And so like she was like essentially staring out a window once, and she's like, it's fine. There's like monsters like pouring through. At least that was my visual, my mental visual of the situation. But like even with like Vasa with climbing ropes,
ropes are still her greatest enemy.
So funny.
That reminds me of like in the early episodes, I was really keen on doing the things where I would make a pop culture reference and then claim it was Bono Primos.
Yes. You did that recently with Moana.
Yes, in the Strange Magic.
Yes, it's still a funny like bit to me.
Is it? No,
it is. No, it's good.
It is.
It is, and we've developed a new hilarious bit in the games that you won't hear him for until like a year from now.
I'm trying to fix that. My goal. Here's my goal. If I haven't told anyone yet, I don't think, or most people don't know. I'm going to make sure that I put out an entire game session worth of content every week. I want to get through the archive. Usually, I get 2 or 3 episodes out of every game session. If I like the last episode that I put out was 1 game session, and I brought it down to an hour 35, hour 40. If it gets too big, I'm going to split it up and release episodes on Monday and Friday. Like, I am getting through the archive. We're too far behind. It's ridiculous. Like,
yeah.
We have some gaps where we don't get to play as much, so we're probably like 9 games behind, maybe 7 or between 7 and 9. I'm getting through them. Like, I'm already 40 minutes into next week's stuff. And if I have to release multiple episodes a week, I'm going to, because I'm going to get to the archive, because we're September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, 11 months. That's too far. It's too far. So that's my goal. I'm blowing through the content. I'm not trying to cut out content just to skip ahead. You're still going to get everything that you would normally get, but I used to be really afraid of putting out long episodes, and I've gotten feedback from people that they kind of like them, or at least are okay with them. So, yeah, 11 months is too far. I want to get through it. So, that's the goal. I think one of my favorite moments, honestly, it's really personal for me, is what's up.
Hang on, Data says there's this button. It looks like a room number 2. We can push it if we need a break.
Damn. Whew, that's good.
There was a lot of shade just
That's
then.
real. That's real. Oh man, that's really good. And yeah, so I think for me, one of my favorite moments is really personal for me is so like full disclosure, I have a lot of fun editing the serious moments of the podcast, and I love spending a lot of time scoring the music and stuff like that. So one of my favorite moments is at the end of episode 40. It's called The Letter, and it's Ertleby opens up a letter from Torrance. And the whole storyline, she doesn't know what's going on with Torrance. Is he legit, you know? And I got the letter pulled up right here. I pulled it up real quick. But the letter reads, "Mother, I'm sorry for the worry I've caused you. I'm finally doing something right with my life. I can't see you, but I wish I could." And like, I wrote that thinking about my mom, who had passed away a couple years ago. And so when I put it in there, and Olivia did a great job kind of responding to it and stuff like that, and then trying to pack it away. And then she went out and she's like, "Guys, you'll never believe what I just remembered about the doppelganger." So I forget what she says, but like, she just plays it really well, where like she has the moment, but it's her moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then she takes it, she accepts it, and then she goes on about her life, which is kind of like, I don't know. That's one of my favorite moments. That, and I really loved scoring the music for Brummelstone and Vasa's moment on the beach.
Yeah.
I actually, the place I get all my music from is Kevin MacLeod, Incompetech.com, and all that music's for free. You just got to credit him. But the song I used, I was so excited about that moment that I actually bought the rights to the music, because when you buy the music, a lot of times it has all the instruments laid out.
Yeah.
And I took out the instruments and like specifically created that song the way I wanted to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of my other favorite moments. That, and I don't know if anyone else loves this, Tompkins and Vasa and the key, like way back in Obrimos when they're in the cell.
When she eats it?
Yeah, that's one of my...
Everybody's like, why are you doing this?
That's one of my favorites. That
was a good moment.
Yeah, Data, they get to an artificial beach outside of the merchant city of Harlem. I'm going to go through the chat real quick and see what we got for favorite moments.
I don't think anybody mentioned one.
No, they got a whole bunch in here, dude. Let's see.
Oh, it went real fast, yeah.
Yeah. Like Josh, the decision was to step on all the rakes, talking about the old call game. Data says Roberto eating rocks. That was pretty funny. That was in like, I think around, that's in 60.
I love that. I'll just say, like, I love that Tin and Roberto never accept that they're not robots. Like, I love that they just keep that up forever.
Well, they spend like about a year and a half, a year in real time making robot jokes. And then there's one time where I call them robots. Excuse me? We are not robots, Pedro. Data says that Scatter was amazing. Tompkins and the rope. Yeah, where I think you're talking about this. When Vasa ties the rope around Tompkins, he gets up in the morning to go pee.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, the doppelganger speech. Yeah, Ertleby did a great job with that. Quinn copying Brummelstone and Roberto getting attached. That was really fun. I really like impersonating characters and playing doppelgangers. That's always really fun. Yeah, Callie's mentions Patch getting ready for shit. That was one of my favorite moments cool. Too. I was super hyped to do that one. She was a sweet old lady. Vomit keys. Josh, you gotta remind me that one. I'll always laugh
at Vomit. That's the one that you were talking about with Voss.
Oh yeah. With the okay. I thought like piano keys for some reason.
Oh, I have to admit. So the one where you guys went to go save Tin and Roberto, and get down there and dang it, why is my brain not working? Brummelstone's girlfriend,
Claiborne.
Ridiculous, Claiborne.
Who hosts this show? Jeez.
Totally one shots an entire mech.
Oh yeah.
Blows up everything, and she's just standing there in the like husk of an explosion, and she's just like, and everybody's like, okay, all right, it's good that you're here. All right, thank God.
Yeah, you're welcome for wooing her. Strikes
that
again.
Was such a twist, man, because like you were supposed to fight her. Nope.
I remember
John V. Hey, what up?
Resist.
John V says, anytime Vasa ties up Tompkins, I find hysterical. And I also just love how Tompkins is this super capable character, architect, and just like ran a city. He's basically treated like the party stepchild. That's one of the things I found most interesting about where the listeners are. It seems like everyone's in either, and maybe it's really lopsided, I don't know, but there are people who love Tompkins, and there are people who just don't give a fuck about Tompkins. And I think the group is listeners versus the dream team. It's like that. I have not met. I don't know. I don't think I've met a listener who's like, oh, I hate that little hobbit. But my God, does the group treat him like shit? Even after learning his history, like in the high 50s. Yeah, and they're like, fuck that. You guys, like most of the group treats him like just a piece of shit, and I'm like, I don't know what he did. I'm fine with it. It's funny.
So funny. I think it's weird too, though, because I like him because of those moments.
Yeah.
But it wasn't too long ago when we first started doing World Talkers that I was like, you guys were at the gravesite. You saw how old he was. Why did no one ask him about his life? What the hell?
Oh, yeah.
Gravestones of his parents were so old that the dates were worn off. And he's just like, yeah.
No, they were in a different language.
And they're just like, get out of here. God, what are you doing in the graveyard? Get out of here. Like annoyed that he's mourning.
Yeah, that was great. Man, he has like super low hit points. It's great. Yeah, Team Tompkins.
If I can speak for the team here for just a moment. You know when you have an escort quest?
Yes, totally.
Nobody likes those. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think
nobody does. That's absolute truth.
I think more. I'm not talking that like that. I think there's like this thing where Tompkins comes in, and the more we find out about him, the madder the group gets at him for not being competent in any sort of like. There's just like, what are you missing? Like, it's like, you can do all these amazing things. Who's this amazing Tompkins that you are supposed to be? And Tompkins is like,
later, Frank. Thanks for stopping by, man.
Yeah. Have you heard the story about this stuff? And it'll go on for 40 minutes.
Oh, man.
Also, I think a lot of people just follow Vasa's lead on that one.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you don't want to get Vasa mad, so you just are glad that she's mad at Tompkins for you.
Someone suggested that we make a T-shirt that just says in big letters, "Oh shit, Tompkins."
That's a good one.
There need to be more World Walkers T-shirts. That's for sure.
That I've got
If only
someone.
there was a group of artists
No.
that could make.
Where could we find them?
For the
No,
World Walkers podcast?
It's purely my fault.
There's no artists around.
It's purely my fault because I have not let anyone start making merch until we have a logo. And I just have not. Someone's working on it right now, and they've shown me some preliminary sketches. I'm excited about it, but I haven't heard from them in a little while, so I don't know if it's going to keep going. And like, I have half a mind to find the person who made that. Well, like, yeah. So John V, you might not know this. The logo that we have, we don't have like a really. It's kind of hard to explain, but basically, like, the logo, the whatever you want to call it, was made without completely investigating all of the legality of it.
Well, I mean, technically, you're not doing any advertising on the podcast, so you're not really profiting off of it.
That's
So
why I don't.
It's fine.
But like,
It's legal
I
enough.
don't want to put it on any merch because I don't have all the rights to it. And so like, I'm getting to the point where I might just try to find whoever made it. And yeah, so you get it, man. Like, when the person that made it for me,
Yeah.
it really helped out. It got a lot of stuff going. Like, without having it, we wouldn't have got anywhere. But I didn't investigate the totality of the work. And once I discovered that, I'm like, we gotta get something. So, yeah, someone's working on a new logo, and it's gonna have the 7 spheres of the 7 worlds with the text, the World Walkers text underneath it.
Nice.
So I've submitted the designs for most of the spheres to them, and then I think they're waiting on 2 more spheres. But I told them what they look like. I just didn't have any examples for them. And then. Yeah, they predicted by the end of this month or sometime in August. So once I have the logo, we're going to have a merch store, and then all the World Walkers can make whatever they want, and I'll sell it in the store. And then, like, whatever they make, the profit goes to them. Anything that I make or my wife makes with me, then we'd make the profit. But
I'm just wondering, in the merch store, can we sell Brummelstone Sings the Blues? I've put all together my concept album. And
anything you want to make, man.
Oh, man, that's just so good.
Yeah, whatever you want to make, you can do. Like, I want to see prints of the art piece that Jane did of Tin flying. I want to see that.
It's like one of my favorite pieces of art that's come out of the whole podcast.
Mm-hmm. Can John buy it on vinyl? He wants to know.
Yes, it's actually the only way you can listen to it, which is really unfortunate because I have to just hand crank it. I just have blank records. And
it's just
chip it in.
All right. Any other questions? I think we're gonna start wrapping this up in the next 5 minutes. So, if we don't, just let you guys know this was really fun. Thanks for hanging out with us. I love doing these. Like, yeah.
You all are amazing. Thanks for listening to the podcast.
And thanks for making it happen, because everyone here is a patron. So like, everyone here makes it happen. Like, I always want to thank everybody for listening, but like, the truth is, like, again, that like, it's the Patreon that in a certain sense made this viable, because like, with all the support that we get, like, it's allowed me to stay at home and raise my daughter without having to put her in a freaking daycare. Like, if this wasn't, if we didn't get the kind of support we get, like, I probably would have gotten scared and chickened out, and maybe like done it as I could and went and got like another job, stuff like that. So like, yeah, I thank everyone for listening to the podcast. Everybody in their own way supports it, but like, you guys made sure that it all happened. So thank you.
Yeah.
A shell with a turtle shell on its back, shirt with a turtle shell on its back. Woof. I'm sure Enzo will sell you 1,000 of them. I don't think he'll have any remorse.
No
Brotherhood of Greg shirts. Can I tell you guys something I thought about and I chickened out on? I wanted to make a street team called the Brotherhood of Greg. Like get a couple really dedicated fans together that would want to help like spread the word of World Walkers. But I can't think of anything that I could give you guys. So that's why I haven't done it yet. Like, what kind of incentive would I do?
I mean, there's a merch store and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I just don't have one yet, though. So.
Yeah.
But that was my idea. Is like, because when I used to run teen programming, I had a street team, and they would go out and aggressively advertise for me. And I was like, oh, the Brotherhood of Greg would be a great street team name. But I can't. I haven't figured out all the stuff I can do to like make it worth your guys' time. But just give everyone nunchucks, Kelly says. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Thanks for listening. Episode 69 is out now. I want to give you guys a heads up. I've been making the transition to seasons since that's the cool thing to do. So if you go to the public World Walkers podcast feed, it's already done. The reason I haven't done it on Patreon yet is because I think when I do it, it's going to tell you guys that there's a whole bunch of new episodes.
Oh, no.
Because I update it, and they're like, oh, cool, this is up for now. So I'm going to post on there and give you guys a heads up. Like, it's...
What a great reason to go rewatch and re-listen to some of your favorite episodes.
But when I go and change them, it's going to redo it, and it's probably going to flood your feed. But I think it's really important. So I'm going to do that. And then my next step is to get all the episodes on YouTube because there's people who they only want to watch this and listen to it on YouTube.
People like YouTube.
Yep. Yeah. So
YouTube can be one of those people.
It should not give you emails, hopefully. It should just hit your feed like, boom, new episode, new episode. All right. So that's me. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'm Pedro.
I'm Wesley.
I'm Brian.
There we go. Oh, man. So, yeah, thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.